Our audience warm-up person, whom we're very fond of, Tom Kelly.
Today on the Tom Kelly Show podcast, we talk about a legendary journalist who had a huge impact on my life and career, Barbara Walters. Let's start the show. Trigger warning, spoiler alert. This is going to be a bittersweet one. You are experiencing the Tom Kelly Show. First, let me get the promos out of the way. If there's one thing I've learned from Barbara Walters is, actually there's a few things, quite a few things. But one was get the plugs in. Make sure you get the plugs in for whatever you're talking about. And this is my podcast. This is the podcast where one comedian figures out life, where I've been, where I'm going. I'm owning the midlife crisis. This is where the offbeat come to meet. We laugh and we learn. We talk to great guests who help us make our lives better. New podcasts about a variety of topics every Monday and Wednesday on your favorite audio app and on YouTube as well. Barbara Walters, dead at 93. Got a dozen text messages last night at 10 o'clock, New Year's Eve. Am I milking the death of Barbara Walters by doing a podcast about it? And I feel that way. But on the other hand, I think I have a gift of having access to somebody who is literally a required chapter in textbooks. I think Barbara would be okay with it. I think Barbara would be okay with me talking about my impact on her. No. Oh, geez. I think Barbara would be okay with me talking about her impact on me. How can I talk about Barbara Walters in a way that nobody else has? I mean, listen, there's everybody. I mean, right now there are tributes just pouring all over the internet right now. Everybody from Oprah down to the audience kids are writing about the impact Barbara Walters had on them. What can I say that's any different? First, the one thing I have in common with everybody who worked at The View and everybody who worked at ABC News in the 90s, 2000s, and 2010s is if you worked with Barbara Walters, I don't think it was lost on me or anybody at The View that they were working with Barbara Walters. There's no other way to put it, and I think I'm having trouble balancing the legend and the woman, the kind, quirky woman that I worked with. Because I'm a comedian, I saw Barbara in a different way. I want to just do a quick shout out to all of the fairy godparents of my career. Jeanette Barber, a man named Bernie Young at Rosie O'Donnell, Bill Getty, Rosie O'Donnell, Barbara Walters, Whoopi Goldberg, Sherry Shepard, Jenny McCarthy, Michael Strahan, Elvis Duran, Dr. Dave Colin, Jim Tomlinson, Mary Gallagher at the NBC Page program, and the one sentence on my career about where I was in 2006 when I started at The View. I was doing a web TV show about me quitting comedy to be a male mermaid in an underwater mermaid show in Weeki Wachee, Florida, and I was riding out a hurricane in a Wendy's on US 19 because my double-wide trailer was on the brink of flooding, and it was in that moment I got a call saying that Rosie O'Donnell had recommended me to Barbara Walters to be the new warm-up comedian at The View.
And look at that poor guy in the red sweater. He is sitting there like a hostage. Look at him. We got the super fans here. That guy's sitting there like, she told me we were going to Letterman. I love it. You look so angry, sir. Did you drive here in a Toyota? What's wrong?
It's funny. I've done about 6 versions of this podcast so far. I keep stopping at this exact moment where do people want to hear about Barbara, or do they want to hear about Barbara's impact on me? Isn't it funny when somebody passes away that you can turn the other person dying into stories about you? The one thing that I think is missing from all the Barbara Walters tributes is Barbara was funny. And I think Barbara admired funny women and wished she was a funnier woman at times. Like, I think she got sad that she was behind the facts and the journalism and the fierce interviews. And, dude, I was just watching some Barbara Walters clips. I forgot how fierce of an interviewer she was. I have a clip going off script here for a minute. It was the only time I got to sit at the Hot Topics table on air. I was doing some sort of a moment with Tom bit about me getting heckled by a 6-year-old at a comedy club. And Barbara then was supposed to ask a question and went off script and asked me, what makes me great at my job? And I choked on the answer.
But you know, you are wonderful with our audience every morning. You really get them. What is the key to it? To get people.
The audience.
What's the key?
Honestly, well, here the secret is having fun. They're the secret, like, and that's where my career is at, man. Like, here I am, look at me. I am performing with 5 of the most talented women on earth, right? I'm beautiful. And at night, I'm getting heckled by 6-year-old kids. My career is, like, beautiful.
I choked on the answer. And the thing is, I was great at being the warm-up comedian at The View. I was great because I enjoyed it. I knew who I was working with. I admired every woman who hosted that show. And I told Barbara this story at the last Christmas party before she retired. I said, you know, Barbara, one of the few A's I got in college was in a class that covered your career. And she joked back, well, if you print out your transcript, I'll sign it for you. Yeah, I mean, she had a sense of humor. I had a tradition of giving the ladies Valentine's Day cards because I was cute and adorable back then. And once I gave her Valentine after Valentine's Day, and I think her joke was, well, Tom, why don't you just give me a President's Day card next year? I think the one thing out there is Barbara Walters worked as hard on her last day as she did on her first. You could read her book Audition, which is 900 pages long. You could skip the celebrity chapters and just get to the chapters that are more about what she needed to prove. And the moral of the story was that Barbara Walters never let the fact that she was Barbara Walters affect her work ethic. You know, and if you talk to any of the producers there, if there were 5 hosts, the woman most likely to read that book was Barbara Walters. Barbara and I had something very much in common. The View is never as tumultuous as the newspapers and tabloids make it seem. And Barbara liked the idea of projecting peace. And I had that in common with her. I'm a fixer. I'm a healer. And I remember, listen, Rosie O'Donnell recommended me there. Rosie O'Donnell brought me in. And I didn't think Barbara would keep me there after the show. I didn't think Bill Getty would keep me after Rosie left. And they did. I mean, how gracious to keep a guy who came in with the person who just left under rocky circumstances. And I've thanked Bill Getty a million times for that. And I remember I talked to Barbara the day after Rosie O'Donnell left. And I ran up to Barbara quietly in the hallway of 320 West 66th Street. And I just said, Barbara, I didn't say I want to thank you for keeping me. I just want to say, Barbara, I'm very excited to stay here with the show, even though Rosie left. And Barbara said, Tom, I was nervous about the crowd today, and Barbara said, I was nervous about the crowd today, and they were a great audience, and I think that's because of you. And I don't know if other people had this experience, but, Barbara and I, weren't friends. We're not. I was much friendlier with the other women at the show. Barbara had a way of giving me a compliment when I needed a compliment. And I don't know if that was actual instincts or not, but there were a couple of other moments like that. And I'm going to try to tell the concise version of this story. It's Newt Gingrich Day at The View. Joy Behar talks to the crowd for a minute, and there's somebody who is from Salt Lake City in the crowd, and Joy says, are you a Mormon? And ha, 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 whatever. And I come out after Joy goes back off stage, and I say, wow, you're a Mormon from Salt Lake City. The only way you can get more stereotypically Salt Lake City is if you knew Donny Osmond. And this woman says, oh my gosh, I taught his nephew. And I know Donny. I went to high school with him. And then I say, oh my God, I would totally bang him. Now, I used to have a joke at the time that I was gay for Donny Osmond and two other attractive men. We'll put that on the side. But I've never said I would bang Donny Osmond. But anyway, the crowd all goes horrified. I would bang Donny Osmond. And then who's standing right behind me? It's Newt Gingrich. Like 5 feet behind me. Like, how the hell did he get there? I mean, never to guess. We're never that close to me. And I am horrified. The crowd is horrified. And then I start apologizing. I'm like, now digging the hole deeper. And then Sherry Shepard, another woman who I owe a great deal to, she starts saying, no, he's... She and Barbara are now trying to dig me out of the hole because I'm horrified for myself. Barbara's like, no, he's just being stupid. He's not even gay. Sherry was saying, you're dirty, Tom, you're dirty. And I remember looking at the speaker and saying, I'm sorry, sir, I'm trying to be proper today. And I screwed up. I actually said, I'm sorry, Mr. Speaker. I'm trying to be proper today, and I screwed up in front of the whole crowd. And he says, well, if this is you trying to be proper, I'd hate to see you on a day when you're not. And I said, gosh darn it, listen, I'm just saying Donny Osmond is a good-looking man, and I get it. And I walked off stage. I got the laugh, whatever. Anyway, I'm horrified for myself. And I did not live up to my own high standard for myself. My foot is in my mouth. I go to apologize to Barbara after the show. Barbara just looks at me, taps me on the shoulder, and says, you're very funny, and walked away from me, which was also a very Barbara thing. Like, I don't really have time for this whole awkward conversation. You're very funny. You're forgiven. And, like at its best, The View had my back, and I had their back. And at its best, The View was a team, and it is a team. It's a family still. There's people who have been there for the 25 years it's been on the air. There are people who I miss very terribly. And when I talk about missing things on this podcast, when I talk about where I'm going next on my career, I don't know if I really want to go back to The View, or do I want to go back to that period of my life? Barbara, Bill, and all the ladies were very good to give me maybe 3 appearances a year where I was on for less than a minute. But those appearances gave me hope. And those appearances, little videotapes of those appearances, got me other work. It got me onto headline news, for sure. Got me comedy club bookings. And it gave me a sense of validation that I was missing. Honest to God, if The View were putting me on TV for one mini segment, I think a week was a month would have quieted me up. If they were still doing that for me in 2018, I never would have left. It was just enough validation, just enough fame, just enough direct messages, emails, whatever you want to call. And it was just enough creative fulfillment. I loved the moment of being there. Barbara, towards the end, I enjoyed being with Barbara that last year. It was a wind down. It was, like she actually said this in front of the crowd at least once, that she wanted to go out like Johnny Carson, which was Johnny Carson retired and then you never saw him again. In Barbara's case, we knew her retirement wasn't going to be her firm retirement. I have a joke that got published where I said, join us for Barbara's retirement this May and join us on June 5th for her grand return to television, which was not far from the truth. Barbara loved television. Barbara, I don't know if she knew how to stop working. Barbara was on air and retired on a Thursday, and she might have been back in the office as executive producer that Monday. She came back quick to be a part of it, and then a lot of changes happened to the show. Go read the book to see what happened. A lot of good people who were good to me were not there. A bomb was thrown at the show, and Jenny McCarthy no longer at the show after that year. Bill Getty no longer at the show after that year. Sherry Shepard. They all got Barbara to the finish line, and some network executive decided, let's throw a bomb at the show. And that wasn't fair. One of the legendary jokes about Barbara was she was so powerful that she actually had years shaved off her birth certificate by Henry Kissinger. I think that was a joke that just became an actual legend. But I was raised by fierce and powerful women, and my years working at The View were a good fit for that. My grandmother, an immigrant, fierce and powerful, tough woman. My mom, an educated, fierce and powerful woman. My cousins, intelligent, and my cousin Amy, who I've talked about, fierce and powerful women. And I thought, and I think that made me a good brotherly, son-like, and maybe grandson-like fit for The View. And Barbara's last year, it was interesting watching somebody who was at the top of her game let go of the game. And I think she, I remember her saying to one of the audio guys before he retired and before she announced her retirement, she said to him, "The days are becoming a precious fewer and fewer, my friend." And I remember that moment thinking, are you talking about Eddie or are you talking about yourself? Years later, am I in that stage? When you start seeing people you love pass away and whatnot. So that's me projecting. Are the days getting a precious fewer and fewer, and you have to make the best out of each one. So at the end of the day, what do I owe to Barbara Walters and Bill Getty and all of those great people I worked with at The View? I owe them the biggest credit on my career. I owe them the biggest adventure of my career. I mean, man, I have opened for Barack Obama. I have met every president since Bill Clinton. I learned how to become Tom Kelly, the big host. I mean, I got a great story about Bill Getty in my first day auditioning where he just said, "Tom, you need to be bigger." That story for another time. But as a guy who's looking for the next adventure, I hope the next adventure feels like the best parts of those years working with Barbara Walters and the rest of the gang at The View. What did I learn from Barbara? Always get in the plug. Don't be shy about telling your story. Always do your homework. And to work as hard on your last day as you did on your first. Don't coast on your credentials. So I think that's about it, guys. If any of my friends with whom I worked at The View are listening, whether it be my amazing audio friends, my amazing stage team, and all the producers who kept me in the loop and made me a little bit smarter, thank you guys. All right, I think we've done enough sentiment for today. All right, folks, new podcasts every Monday and Wednesday. I don't know. I was trying to find a good Barbara-like ending, but best ending ever. Take a little time to enjoy the view.
Then on the third try, I used a login named Barbara Walters fan, and it worked, ladies and gentlemen.
Did you ever get
Yeah. But it only worked for about 3 minutes, then it crashed again. I checked
That's
it.
the story of my life.
So